In this demonstration, I'm going to demonstrate the technique of using polymodeling to model a couch. This is an example of using a technique called polymodeling. Polymodeling is one of the primary modeling techniques for 3D geometry in 3ds Max. The concepts that we're going to look at in this tutorial are segment, edge, polygon, inset, bevel, extrude, and swift loop. If you want to know more about these topics, use the help menu in 3ds Max. There are also some tutorials in this technique that you can look at. The link for them is here, and they're also linked in Canvas if you want to look at it. This gives you an example of what the couch will look like when we have completed it inside of Max. So I've started a new scene in Max. I have one view, primary view. It's in perspective view. My units are set to US standard, and I'll put it on inches. Set OK. And I'm going to start by making a box of any convenient size. Click, and then I'm going to change the parameters of this box. I'm going to change the length parameter to 3 feet. Hit the down arrow, change the width parameter to 7 feet, hit the down arrow, and then change the height parameter to 6 inches. I have no length segments, no width segments, no height segments. Alright, I do want to see my edges of my boxes on my geometry, so I need to turn that on. I can turn it on by this viewport menu here. Right here is edged faces. I can click on that. That'll turn the edge faces on or off. I can also use the F4 key. F4 will toggle that setting on and off. So I want it on. Alright, so we have our box, and the box is 3 foot long, 7 foot wide, and 6 foot high. So what I need to do is add segments to the location to break this up so that I can extrude it at specific locations. Okay, I can use the segment parameter for the box, and those are the length segments, and these are the width segments, and these are the height segments. But and sometimes it will be very useful to use those parameters, but in this case we want segments in specific locations, so we're going to add segments manually. I'm going to right click on that. Alright, so what I need to do is get into the sub-object level of my box. Okay, I have two ways I can enter sub-object mode. I can either right click on the box with it selected, go down to convert to, and change it to an editable poly. That's method one. I can also add an edit poly modifier. So in the modifier list with my box selected, go to the modifier tab up here, click on the drop down, scroll down to the ease, and there is edit poly right there. So I'm going to apply an edit poly modifier. Now what that does is when I click on the edit poly modifier on the little arrow right there, it will allow me to have access to these sub-object levels. The sub-object levels are vertex, edge, border, polygon, and element. Alright, so we want to add segments, and there's many different ways to add segments, but what we're going to look at right now is a technique to connect edges. So I can connect two edges. I can click on that edge to select it, go down to edge mode, click on the edge, hold down Control, click on the other edge, and I have two edges selected. I'm going to orbit around holding down Alt and pressing the wheel in on the mouse. So I'm holding Alt down and pressing the wheel. So you can see two edges are selected, and I can add a segment between those two edges, and it's going to put it right in the middle, perfectly centered in this space here. Okay, so I can do that by clicking on this button here. If I scroll down in my parameters down here, down into the edit edges, I can click on this connect button right there, and that will add a segment right in the middle. Okay, I'm going to undo that, so click the undo button. I can also right click and go to the quad menu and select connect right there. That will again add the one segment right down the middle. Now I'm going to undo that also. Now in Max and in most modeling programs, you want to create clean models which are going to have polygons that are organized and that have clean shapes. So to do that, you need to place a segment that loops around the entire object. So I'm going to go into wireframe mode by pressing F3. I'm going to turn off my grid by pressing G. Okay, so in this case I only have 2 segments selected, but I want to select all of these segments that loop around this in this direction. So I can do that by holding down Control and clicking on each of them. That's one method to select all of them. I can hold one and click one, hold down Shift and click the next one. That won't do it in this case, so ignore that. But up here in one of my rollouts, I have under the selection rollout, I have one called Ring. Ring will, once I have one edge selected, it will select all the others. So if I click Ring, it will select all of those that are in that direction that are parallel with this segment. I could also use a selection window if I have this right here. If I have my selection type set to window crossing, which is this button. If I have it turned on that mode, if I have it turned on window mode, it won't do that. Okay, with window mode, it won't, because it has to be completely inside. With crossing mode, I can select it with the selection window like that. Okay, so there's 3 different ways. Selection window, click one and click Ring, or click one and hold down Control and just click on all of them. All right, so I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to right click, and if I press connect, it will make a loop. It'll connect those edges all the way around. But that only added 1 segment. I need 2 segments, so I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to use my quad menu here. I'm going to right click on quad menu and go to this button right there, this little black box that's to the left of the connect button. And that will give me a dialog that allows me to add multiple segments, so I can click on the arrows up and down and add and remove segments. In this case I want 2. Then I can pinch them, use the pinch control to either move them closer or further away. And in this case I'm going to put it like at 78. Let's set it at 80. Okay, and this button here slides it back and forth. So if you want it perfectly centered, equally centered, you want to just leave it at 0. So if I'm good, I'm going to click the check mark, and that's going to create those segments there. So I'm going to turn off of the wireframe, press F3, click back to top mode. All right, F3. So I have my segments there. Okay, F3 is, if you can see them right there, and that means I have polygons at the end here. So I'm going to go down to polygon mode, click on one polygon, hold down Control, select the other polygon. And now what I want to do is to extrude these. So if I go down to edit polygon, there's a button for extrude. Click on that. Move my cursor right over either of the polygons. Hold the left mouse button down and press up. So I'm holding the left mouse button down and I'm moving the mouse. So I'm going to move it up a little bit and let go. Now I'm going to undo just to show you how I could use the settings also. So undo. If I want to be very precise, I can use the settings button right here. That's to the right of this button. And then I will have a parameter that lets me change it very precisely. So if I need to put in a specific height, so that's like 8 inches right there. So if I want exactly 8, I could select that with my cursor, type in 8, and click the check mark. Okay. So that's how to use either the settings or the button. So the button is more visual, the settings is more about precision. All right, so I need to add a segment for the back now to pull up the back, because I'm going to bring up the back here. If I look at this here, I'm going to bring up this back part here, this part here. I want to extrude that up. So I'm going to I need to add a new segment. So I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to actually go all the way up to edit poly to the top level. And I'm going to use my poly editing tools up here. Now these do not become active unless I have an editable poly. In this case, we do have an editable poly, so now they are activated. So I'm going to go to this edit button and use Swift Loop. Swift Loop is a fast way to visually add loops to your project. Okay, so if you need to add, you just need to add a bunch of them, and it doesn't matter exactly where they are, just roughly. This is a very quick way to do this. So in this case, I'm just going to put it right there, and as you can see, it's looping all the way around all those edges. Okay, so I just clicked right there. Now if I didn't like that location, with it in this mode right now, I've just placed it. It's still red, so it means it's still selected. I could go to the move tool, and I could use the move tool to move that segment visually, okay? So just because you placed it doesn't mean you have to leave it there. All right. Now if you want to select it after you've deselected it, click on one and click the loop, and it will loop all the way around. Again, this is the one where if you click on one, hold down shift and click the next, it should go around, but it didn't, so it doesn't always work. In this case, just click the loop and it'll loop it for you. Okay, so once you have it selected, you can move it. I'm going to go to polygon mode, click on this polygon, and use my extrude. I can, instead of clicking on the button over here, I'm just going to right click and go to the quad menu, click on extrude right here, click on that, hover over the polygon, hold the left mouse button down and press the mouse up. Let go to edge mode, click the edge. Well, I'll go back to polygon because I want to move this. So I'm going to switch to move tool, move it to the back a little bit at the polygon level. And I'm going to go to edge mode, select the edge, slide it back a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going to add some segments down the middle so I can add the cushions. So I'm still in the edge mode. So I'm going to use my selection here. Okay, to select all, go back to edge mode, select all of them. Again, I could click on one and click ring, and that'll do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to go to connect by right clicking, go to the settings for connect. I want to add two, but I want them to be really close. Well, I'm going to do two on the outside first to kind of give it some space from the edge. So like that, click the check mark. This one, ring it, connect settings. I'm going to bring it in very close this time, about like that. Okay, so I'm going to click check mark. And then I'm going to go to polygon mode, turn on F3, click on the polygon. I'm going to use the inset. I could do this multiple, so hold down Control and select two at once. And then right click, inset, and do it visually, kind of bring it right there. Click, click, inset. Try this in inset, and bring it in just a little bit. All right, now I'm going to select all those polygons. Use extrude. And bring those up, like that. Now I've got some overlapping down here, so it's not really perfect. I probably should have done it. I should have brought that one edge up a little bit higher, so maybe I'll undo that and see if this will work. All right, so I'm going to click on this edge mode. I'm going to click on this edge and this edge. And now if I move them straight up like this, it's going to deform my object. See what it's doing? I want it to slide along that edge there. So I can, let me see if I change it to local, if that'll work. Yeah, that keeps it kind of along that edge there. So slide it up a little bit, turn that back to view. I'm going to go to polygon extrude, polygon, extrude. And if I don't like, if I don't really, I can extrude this up a little bit further. I'm just going to not extrude, I'm going to move it. Okay. So, let me extrude this a little bit more. Now visualization, a lot of what visualization is, it's all about the way it looks. So the strength of this program is making things quickly, not really about the precision of it. So that's my couch. It's not perfect, but it's a good start. It's a good beginning exercise in the process of modeling. So go ahead and give it a shot. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk about it more in class.